Okay. This episode is Career Day. This was written by Rob Hummel. I think it might be actually his first solo script. Storyboarded by Chris and Ian Graham under the name the Graham Brothers. That name, the Graham Brothers, caused a lot of problems. That little head detached scene, that was Jonah's idea, I believe. It was pretty funny. The Graham Brothers name actually was disputed by Mary Harrington. She didn't like that idea that the two Graham brothers, put their name as the Graham brothers, although they're not even brothers. They're not even related. They're just two guys with the same name that have worked together for about 4 years in the business. This was the last episode of theirs of the first 6 episodes. This was a 6-pack that they'd picked up, and it had a compressed production schedule. Everybody just lost their minds working on it. It was just like 100 hours a week for about 10 or 12 weeks during the summer of 2000. Everybody was in all the time working on this stuff. Everybody was worn out by the end. And it shows by the end of this episode. You get the idea that everybody's worn out, and it just looks like a sloppy episode towards the end. This looks very good, though, here at this point. I think this is all Ian stuff. It still works quite well. The rash that went into the molt, it was pretty hard to show. It's like molting is something that birds do, so suddenly to say that, Zim is a scaly organism is molting is a little bit odd, or I don't even know if Zim's scaly, he's just green. Originally, there was supposed to be some sort of musical, accents for Zim hitting his head. That was the POS 2000. That was put in by the board as POS, meaning piece of shit 2000. He's a big computer aficionado. I love this touch that they have this this test to place people into their fields. I remember getting one of these back when I was in school, and it said I was good for nothing except computer programming, and it said I was even mediocre at that. I don't know if they were right, but I didn't go into any of the things that they said I was any good for. Actually, I haven't seen this episode in a while. It looks a lot better than I remember. At least this part does. Those little wiggles like that with the hand, that was absolutely misinterpreted by the animators. That's just a fun little idea for her to float in with her legs coming out. I think it came out of me. I just did some sound effects on the animatic, and we decided to time off of that. There I am in the background. Ian Graham, the board artist of this section, originally had put in a whole bunch of crazy people into these shots. So as you panned across that crowd of adults, you saw like axe murderers and molesters and stuff. It was pretty funny. There's a Jason character in there. I think you still see the Jason character, and he was showing a kid how to strangle people and cut them up, with miming. It created a lot of controversy. New York hated it. They hated the idea that there was an axe murderer in that crowd. But I think the axe murderer, sort of a Jason, superhero axe murderer, is so over the top. And I think it's a joke in itself, even though it's gratuitous violence. That ninja originally kicked that kid, and you could hear it off screen. We had to change it to an off-screen kick. It's funny, Gaz is in this shot. There he is. There's our Jason character. I don't know if it was true or not, but originally Bruce Campbell of the Evil Dead films and the Sam Raimi crew was supposed to do the voice of this character, or at least maybe Jonan afterwards thought that he wanted to do him as the voice, or have him as the voice of this character, which I think would have been great. The character's designed, or supposed to be somebody like a Scully or a Mulder, from X-Files. But it's actually designed after the Smith agent from The Matrix, and you can see the likeness in that character design. McMeaties. This is now a different McMeaties from Germs. I like the original McMeaties with the meat. It just became this lifeless block building. But for this episode, it works really well because it's sort of the whole feeling of this is that Zim is working in this horrible environment where it's bland and dull. So a bland, dull building really works well. Some gross characters. That's Jonan, by the way, is that worker. And although Jonan always hated his character voices, I thought he was really good with this voice. One of the sickest jokes, the puss. These bumps that you see going on here, this is another Jonanism, where the timers put in a little, they asked for a little, a jolt, a little accent. And the animators animated these huge accents, which absolutely, they obviously didn't get the idea. Jonan's idea of how to cover up the animation instead of asking for the animation to eliminate those bumps was to put in animals being run over on the road, which is actually good because he turned bad animation into a joke. It's a really good technique. I've learned a lot from that. I think I'll use that again and again myself whenever I can. This script originally was a little bit longer. It was way too long originally, and we had to cut out quite a few pages. It was kind of sad. It's a fun episode, and a lot of parents of kids like this episode. I don't know if kids ever say that this is a great episode. Older people generally like it. It was well written by Rob Hummel, and he had this great section where Zim works his way up to president, and you have the whole chain of events leading up to him becoming president, and then you realize it's a dream of his. There's also a whole stream of extra jokes of the drive-through worker at McMeady's being on fire and wanting to go home or take his break and not being able to. Actually looks really nice looking back at this episode. I'm surprised how nice it looks. I remembered it being quite a mess. This cow rolling joke. Oh, these meat shakes. Just about everything gross you could do with a fast food restaurant was done in this. It was really fun. And Ian, these sections by Ian are just disgusting as hell. We always had fun with that line. You could see the girl's grabbing the guy's nipples as she goes down on him. Really had a sexual sort of a overtone when we heard the voices. I originally wanted to put in a zipper sound effect down there when she goes down. I didn't eat at fast food restaurants for about 2 months after this came out. I was so disgusted by it. That shift captain joke, like right there where you go into the shift captain, that was supposed to lead up into the further scenes with the shift captain not letting the guy off that's on fire. So you're sort of seeing a remnant there of an earlier board and an earlier script. You can see some of the laziness going on, like that design of that cow detector or whatever that is, that alien detector, and just the design of that sign. It really doesn't have the same design sense that you get in the later shows or the earlier shows. Everybody was kind of rushing out the door. This was one of those episodes where people were just... Everybody had to belt it out for a deadline. It's not bad, though. I mean, you can just tell it's a little bit different than the usual work. It's funny, Coco Fang is only used in this episode, and then you see him in a flashback elsewhere. And yet, a lot of people refer to Coco Fang. A lot of people still talk about Count Coco Fang. A very loved character. There's Don, our parking attendant. That was Chris Graham's use of that character. Originally, I was supposed to be an adult yelling that. I think Chris Graham put in that it was Schmolga or whatever that character's name is, that little girl. Chris Graham's violent humor. And you can see Ian Graham in the background there waiting in line. He has the hat with the 45 on it.